What happens when you know the future, but no one believes you? When you see disaster approaching with absolute clarity, warn everyone who listen, and watch helplessly as they march straight into catastrophe anyway. This isn't mythology. This is the true story of Artavasda, a Persian soldier whose prophetic vision could have saved an empire if only anyone had listened. The year is 480 BCE. Xerxes, King of Kings, ruler of the largest empire the world has ever known, is assembling the most massive invasion force in human history. His target? Greece. His goal? Absolute conquest. His confidence? Unshakable. And standing in his vast army is one soldier who knows, with bone-deep certainty, that it will all end in ruin. Artavasda wasn't born special. He was the son of a minor Persian noble from the province of Media, trained as a standard infantry soldier, unremarkable in almost every way, except for one thing that made him deeply uncomfortable. He dreamed true. It started when he was 16. He dreamed his younger brother would fall from a horse and break his leg in 3 places. 2 days later, it happened exactly as he'd seen. Same location, same break pattern, same shocked expression. Coincidence, his family said, but Artavasda knew better. The dreams came irregularly, unpredictably. He'd see a commander making a decision that would lead to ambush. A week later, the ambush would unfold precisely as witnessed in sleep. He'd dream of weather patterns that would strand supply columns. The weather would turn exactly as predicted. Artavasda learned quickly not to speak of these visions. In Persia's rigid military hierarchy, claiming prophetic ability without priestly sanction was dangerous. Oracles served temples, not armies. A common soldier who claimed to see the future was either mad or blasphemous, possibly both. So he kept silent, watching his dreams manifest with disturbing accuracy, carrying the weight of unwanted knowledge alone. Then came the dream that changed everything. 3 months before Xerxes' invasion began, Artavasda woke gasping from the most vivid vision he'd ever experienced. He'd seen it all. The Persian fleet, over 1,000 ships strong, trapped in the narrow straits of Salamis. Greek triremes ramming them from impossible angles. Persian vessels colliding with each other in the chaos, unable to maneuver in the confined waters. The sea turning red with blood. The sound of splintering wood and drowning men echoing off the hills. And most terrifying of all, he'd seen Xerxes himself, seated on a golden throne atop a hill, forced to watch his magnificent navy destroyed before his eyes, while he sat powerless to intervene. The vision was so detailed, so overwhelming in its certainty, that Artavasda knew this wasn't just another dream. This was the pivotal moment, the hinge of history, the disaster that would break Persia's invasion and turn the tide of the entire war. He had to warn someone. But who would listen to a common soldier claiming prophetic knowledge of a battle that hadn't happened yet, predicting defeat for an invasion everyone knew was invincible? Artavasda started with his immediate commander, a captain named Datis. He approached carefully, framing it as strategic concern rather than prophecy. "Sir, I've been studying the Greek coastline reports. The narrow straits near Salamis. If we engage there with our full fleet, we'll have no room to maneuver. Our numbers become a disadvantage, not an advantage." Datis barely looked up from his meal. "The king's naval commanders have planned every detail for 3 years. You think they haven't considered geography? We have over 1,000 ships. The Greeks have maybe 300. The math is simple. But in narrow waters, numbers don't—" "Dismissed, soldier. Keep your tactical theories to yourself." Artavasda tried again with a sympathetic officer who'd known his family. He was more direct this time, mentioning the dreams, the pattern of accuracy. The officer's face went cold. "You're claiming divine visions? That's temple business, Artavasda, dangerous business for a soldier. I'd forget about this if I were you, for your own safety." The message was clear: shut up or face consequences. But Artavasda couldn't shut up. The vision haunted him, growing more detailed each time he slept. He saw specific ships by name. He saw the exact formation that would trap the Persian fleet. He saw the morning light reflecting off Greek bronze as they rode into position. Every detail burned into his memory with crystalline precision. Desperate, he sought out a Persian magi, a Zoroastrian priest who served with the army. Surely someone trained in spiritual matters would understand. The magi listened patiently, then asked, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to tell the king's advisors. You have authority. They'll listen to you." The priest smiled sadly. "No, they won't. Artavasda, do you know how many soldiers have come to me claiming prophetic dreams since this campaign began? Dozens. They dream of victory, of glory, of divine favor. And you know what I tell them? The same thing I'm telling you. Dreams are not prophecy. Prophecy comes through proper ritual, proper training, proper channels. A soldier having nightmares about naval battles is not receiving divine communication. But what if I'm right? Then Ahura Mazda will ensure the truth is revealed through proper means, not through a random infantry soldier's sleep. Artavasda left that meeting understanding a terrible truth. The very structure of Persian society made it impossible for his warning to be heard. Knowledge flowed downward from the king, not upward from common soldiers. Prophecy came through established religious channels, not random dreams. The system had no mechanism for incorporating inconvenient truth from inconvenient sources. He was trapped in a nightmare he couldn't wake from, knowing disaster was coming, knowing exactly how it would unfold, and being utterly powerless to prevent it. As Xerxes' massive army crossed into Greece, Artavasda marched with them, carrying his burden of terrible knowledge. He watched the king's confidence, saw the assumption of inevitable victory in every command, every strategy session he overheard. They were walking into a trap and calling it destiny. The Persian fleet sailed south along the Greek coast. Artavasda, assigned to a supply ship, watched the enormous armada with growing dread. Every detail matched his vision. The composition of the fleet, the weather patterns, even the specific admiral commanding the vanguard, all exactly as he'd seen months ago. He tried one last time, approaching a naval officer before they entered the Saronic Gulf. "Sir, the straits ahead, they're a tactical nightmare for our fleet size. If we're forced to fight there—" The officer cut him off with a laugh. "Forced? We're not being forced anywhere. We're hunting the Greek fleet to annihilation. Those straits are where they'll be trapped, not us." "But what if they lure us in deliberately? What if—" "Soldier, stick to supply management. Naval tactics are beyond your understanding." Artavasda fell silent. There was nothing more he could do. The Battle of Salamis unfolded exactly as he'd dreamed it. The Greeks, led by the cunning Themistocles, sent a false message claiming their alliance was fracturing, that they were preparing to flee. Xerxes, eager to annihilate them before they could escape, ordered his fleet into the narrow straits to block their retreat. It was a trap, and Artavasda watched it spring closed with the sick certainty of having seen this exact moment months ago. The Persian ships entered the straits at dawn, just as in his vision. The morning light caught their sails exactly as he'd seen. They were packed so tightly that maneuverability was impossible. And then the Greek triremes emerged from their hidden positions, ramming into the Persian flanks with devastating precision. Artavasda stood on the deck of his supply ship, watching the slaughter unfold. Ships colliding, Persians drowning in armor too heavy to swim in, the narrow waters preventing any coordinated response. It was chaos, exactly as prophesied. And there, On a golden throne set atop a hill overlooking the strait sat Xerxes himself, forced to watch his fleet destroyed, powerless to intervene. Every detail perfect, every horror predicted. Artavasda wept. Not from fear. His supply ship was far enough back to avoid the worst fighting. He wept from the crushing weight of having known, having warned, and having been ignored. Hundreds of ships lost, thousands of men dead, all of it preventable if anyone had listened. The Persian fleet limped away in defeat. The invasion would continue on land for a while, but everyone knew the truth. Salamis had broken the campaign's back. Without naval superiority, Xerxes couldn't supply his massive army. Without supply, the invasion was doomed. After the battle, Artavasda returned to camp in a daze. Part of him wanted to scream, "I told you," at every officer he saw. But what would be the point? They'd either call him a liar, claiming false credit for predicting what everyone now knew had happened, or they'd call him a traitor for having foreseen Persian defeat. So he said nothing. He survived the remainder of the campaign, returned to Persia with the retreating army, and resumed his normal life as a minor soldier from a minor family. But he couldn't forget. The question haunted him for the rest of his life. What's the point of seeing the future if no one will believe you? What's the value of prophecy in a system designed to ignore inconvenient truth? Years later, now a low-ranking officer training new recruits, Artavasda heard one of his students mention a disturbing dream about upcoming war games. Everyone else laughed. Artavasda didn't. After the session, he pulled the young soldier aside. "Tell me about your dream, every detail." The recruit, surprised by the serious tone, described a vision of the war game going catastrophically wrong due to an overlooked equipment failure. Artavasda listened carefully, then said, "I believe you. Check the equipment personally, all of it. Don't tell anyone why, they'll think you're mad. Just check it." The recruit found the fault 3 days later, a weakened rope on a training apparatus that would have collapsed under use, potentially killing several soldiers. He quietly had it replaced. The war games proceeded without incident. Artavasda never told the recruit about Salamis, about his own visions, about the crushing weight of prophecy ignored. But he'd learned something important. If the system won't listen, you work around the system. You save who you can, prevent what you can, even if history never knows your name. He died at 63, unremarkable in the records, just another soldier who'd served in Xerxes' failed invasion. His name appears in no histories, his warnings are recorded nowhere. The establishment that had ignored him erased even the memory of his existence. But the lesson of Artavasda echoes across the centuries. How many disasters could be prevented if we listened to inconvenient warnings from inconvenient sources? How much suffering comes from systems designed to reject truth that doesn't arrive through approved channels? Artavasda's tragedy wasn't just that he was right. It was that being right didn't matter. In a system that values hierarchy over truth, prophecy becomes curse, the burden of knowing paired with the helplessness of being unable to act. The oracle soldier predicted Xerxes' naval defeat with perfect accuracy, but he couldn't predict the one thing that doomed his warning: human stubbornness, institutional rigidity, and the eternal arrogance of power that assumes it already knows everything worth knowing. Sometimes the most powerful prophecy is the one everyone refuses to hear, until it's too late.